If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart and Tommy Beer. Let's get to it, New York.
For the Knicks. So that moves us to Monday night. Knicks look to snap their 9-game losing streak against the Brooklyn Nets when the two teams face off at MSG. The Nets are going to look very different when you see them this time around. There is no Kyrie Irving. There is no Kevin Durant. Both those guys were traded last week to the Mavs and Suns, respectively. Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges made their debuts for the Nets in a very close loss to the Sixers. A very good game you did not watch on Saturday night at Barclays. So with KD and Kyrie gone, how do the Knicks change their game plan against Brooklyn? I mean, I'm sure it becomes a lot easier to guard them for sure. But how does this affect the matchup between the Nets and Knicks, not having those megastars out there?
Yeah, it's obviously a completely different game plan as opposed to kind of shutting down one or two guys and kind of focusing on those guys and preventing them from beating you. The Nets have a far more balanced squad right now and certainly more defensive minded. There's obviously anytime you lose a top 15, top 20 player of all time and Kevin Durant, there's going to be some adjustments, but the Nets right now have a very balanced team, a good all around team. They're long, they're lengthy. They play defense. Guys like obviously Mikal Bridges, Dorian Finney-Smith's an excellent wing defender. Nick Claxton is in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. And then they still obviously can score some points. Cameron Johnson, back-to-back 44-point games. Joe Harris, scored 18 off the bench on Saturday night. So there's Cameron Johnson, another sharpshooter that they got in the Phoenix deal. It'll be interesting. This Nets team kind of reminds me of the last time we saw the Nets without KD, that before they signed, Kyrie and Durant that summer of 2019, they, hustle and they got Dinwiddie there. They play with a little bit more energy, a little bit more force, a little bit more toughness, as opposed to just the exceptional skills of just basically leaning on those guys, the KDs and Kyries. So we'll see, but it seems kind of if there was ever a time for that, the Knicks want to snap that 9-game losing streak. Now would seem to be the time. No KD, no Kyrie, an opportunity. You're at home in the Garden to kind of get back on track. And also these two teams, it's not far-fetched and we'll talk about it here in a moment. Could the Knicks catch the Nets in for the 5th or 6th seed? And if you envision yourself as avoiding the play-in and securing a playoff spot, the Nets might have to be the team, depending on if Miami stumbles a little bit here, but the Nets might have to be the team you catch. And obviously head-to-head games are going to be important.
Yeah, the Knicks already dropped 2 games to the Nets already, so now they have to try to tie them to kind of force the tiebreaker to be something other than head-to-head matchups. So this is a big game for the Knicks when it comes to playoff situations and playoff implications for this one. Yeah, the Nets. I mean, obviously, I'd much prefer to face this version of the Nets than Nets that had Kyrie and KD. But they do present some problems with some of the guys they have. Like you mentioned, they have some really good defenders. I mean, Bridges, Finney-Smith. They already still have Royce O'Neal. They have multiple guys who should be able to handle Barrett and Randall in this game. So I think that's going to be matchups to watch, how the Nets rotate their multiple lengthy, rangy combo forwards that they have. It's a very kind of odd team the way they're put together. I don't think this is necessarily the plan moving forward to keep all these guys together, but I think to start with what they have right now, they're still going to be a somewhat of a formidable team and a formidable matchup. Spencer Dinwiddie, as Knicks fans know, always seems to have something for the Knicks, whether it be on social media talking before games or how he plays in the games against the Knicks. He usually plays extremely well. So I would expect that he would probably have a really good game in this one. So it should be a good game. I think the Knicks do have some advantages, particularly, with Brunson, of course, at the point guard spot now. That's no longer, a Wash or a Kyrie advantage there. So I think Brunson maybe could have a big game. And I do want to continue to see what Josh Hart can bring to the table. He's playing against a lot of guys who I think kind of do the same things he does. So it should be funny to see how that matchup works out.
What's crazy, EJ, is we could talk for, we talked for a few minutes about this game. We talked for another 10 minutes and we still haven't mentioned Ben Simmons. You know,
I
the,
know.
the highest paid player on the Nets by far. He's making 36 million this year. No other player on the team is making more than 20 million. So yeah, I'll be interested. You know, you kind of don't know. It's hit or miss on Simmons. Some nights he'll give you, 9, 8, and 7, and other nights he's just invisible. His minutes are trending in the wrong direction. Now that the Nets have, plenty of depth on the wing and at the four, obviously Simmons can fit in anywhere. He has that versatile skill set when he's engaged and locked in.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen that version of Ben Simmons, basically in two or 3 years now. So we'll see if he can make an impact, if he can start to carve his way. But it is really shocking to see. You watch some net games, you totally forget that he's even on the team, as we did discussing him. But in terms of obviously Brunson is considering the Mikal Bridges and the length that Claxton kind of clogging the paint is going to be difficult for Randall to kind of bully his way
Yep.
to the basket as he does against a lot of other teams that don't have talented shot blockers and defenders at the four and at the forward spot. So maybe Randall takes a few more threes. The other thing to keep an eye on with Brunson, some teams have been starting to run doubles at him more frequently because he's just been that good, and we'll talk about it in a second. How well he's been playing over the last couple of weeks and making a bid for the All-Star game. He really is playing at an incredibly high level. Not only is he producing at a high level, the efficiency is remarkable. So teams understand that, and they want to take away. He's been the Knicks' best, most efficient offensive weapon. They're going to want to take that away. So we'll see if Dinwiddie's not really somebody that can stay in front of Brunson.
Yeah.
We'll see if they put. I'll be interested to see if they put Bridges on him. Obviously,
I
those
think they
guys.
will. Yeah.
I think they will as well. There's some Villanova connection there, obviously, with Hart and I forget who. Somebody on. I think it might have been Bridges or maybe it was Hart, but they all went to dinner in the city on Sunday night or after the game or before or Saturday night. But there was some images. So those guys are close. That will be an interesting matchup. I think definitely to keep an eye on. If I wouldn't be surprised if Bridges tells Jacques Vaughn, like, I got that dude, and we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, Bridges is absolutely one of the best on-ball defenders in the league. So if that does become the matchup to watch, that should be a really fun one, especially fun for the Nova grads. Plenty of them in New York who are happy to see some of these cats make it to the Knicks and Nets over the past few weeks and over the past year with Brunson joining the team as well. So Knicks and Nets in this one, we talk about the standings and where the Knicks stand. I think that the Knicks are going to have a shot at catching the Nets. I think the Nets, they showed in that game against Philly, they're not a doormat with the guys they have. I do think that was kind of maybe your first game together where you kind of give it your all, and there's a lot of energy and a lot of emotion because you want to kind of show that, hey, we're not going to fall apart here down the stretch. So I think they're going to be pesky, but we see the Knicks right now as we record this podcast on Monday, 3 games out behind Brooklyn as we stand right now. That's not insurmountable for them. Obviously, they're only a game and a half behind Miami for the 6th spot. But could Knicks catch Brooklyn 3 games back? I think that's plenty. They're 4 back in the loss column, so a little bit of work to do there. But I think that the Knicks can catch this team. The Knicks do have a kind of a tricky schedule, but the Nets also don't have an easy schedule down the stretch either. So that should help them as well. This is going to be huge. But I do think that if you're looking at trying to catch one of these top 6 spots that you mentioned, the Nets are going to be a team they're going to have to beat when they play them, and a team that may be the team they have to catch because Miami is getting in shape. They're 3 games on a 3-game winning streak. They've won 7 out of 10, so it's going to be tough to catch Miami. Brooklyn, who's lost 6 out of the last 10 games, and of course now we're an entirely new team. That might be the team you're looking at and say, hey, this is our chance to get in.
Definitely. I'm a little bit higher on the Nets, I think, than most. I just like their core. I like the way they're going to compete. I like their, I like the guys, that they kept and the guys that they added in. And they're playing with little something to prove. They hear Kyrie's comments about, kind of bashing, Brooklyn on his way out of town. And I think they, I think that they just have a scrappy young group of guys that are going to compete every night. You don't have closers, so that's going to make it difficult to finish in the 4th quarter. But I think they're going to be in a lot of close games. Vegas has this as a 3-point spread. The Knicks given, and usually the home team gets around a 3-point advantage. So that kind of tells you that they view in terms of talent on both rosters relatively similar. And I think if the Nets were starting, I agree with you. This is not the finished product that Sean Marks envisioned.
Yeah.
I think he had to adjust on the fly. I don't think he would have made the trade for Kyrie if he knew he was also going to trade Kevin Durant. It sounds like they were, kind of going back and forth.
Yeah.
So I think they'll make some adjustments in over the summer. Just one other point while we're on Brooklyn that I find interesting is the two guys that left. Look at the way they handled their business. They both wanted out prior to the prior to this season. Obviously, Durant had voiced his displeasure, and even the year before, both players had the options to sign max contracts. Kevin Durant did, locked in for 4 years, got his money. Kyrie didn't, for whatever Kyrie's reasons are. Vaccine mandate came down in New York City. He decided not to get vaccinated. The season exploded. They had to trade James Harden and had to take back Ben Simmons. A nightmare of a trade. Anyway, fast forward a year. Kyrie again publicly demands a trade, leaks it to multiple outlets, leaks it that he may not play the rest of the season if he isn't traded. Instead of going to the Lakers, where he wanted to end up, he's in Dallas. Kevin Durant, on the other hand, behind the scenes, goes privately to Sean Marks, says, I want to play for the Suns. Can we please, let's work together to try to, do something that's good for the organization and good for me as an individual. He gets traded to Phoenix and now has a very good chance to win a championship. So just says a little bit, and Kyrie bashing the Nets, he's so happy in Dallas, but all he's talking about is how the Nets did him wrong, even though they paid him $135 million. They're playing about 5 games. And I assume Kevin Durant hasn't talked to the media yet. I assume he'll take the high road and compliment, say, be thankful for Brooklyn for everything they did, yada, yada, yada. Just kind of goes to show you that that sometimes things come around and, what goes around comes around type of thing in the NBA. But yeah, as far as the Nets team going forward, I think they're a scrappy bunch. I think the Net fans are going to enjoy rooting for that team. And they're going to be a tough out in the playoffs and in games like this, especially they're going to be up for the Knicks contest. So but I agree with you. And I just pulled up the Tankathon remaining schedule strength. Very interesting. The Knicks are 6, so the Knicks have the 6th toughest remaining strength of schedule. The Nets have the 7th toughest. So those they're tied 51.6 basically win percentage among the teams that they're facing. And also interesting, Miami's 4th, right above them. So those 3 teams are they're going to be chasing each other. It's we got 2 months left of the season now, so we can start keeping an eye on the standings. And obviously the other team we want to keep an eye on is the Hawks. The Knicks are just a game and a half ahead of Atlanta, so we'll see how that plays itself out. But should make for some very interesting games. Some kind of every night basis. We'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah. And you mentioned the Hawks. That's a good point as well, because if they don't make the play-in and make the playoffs and they have to play in a play-in game, you want to be at home for your first play-in game. And if the Hawks are nipping at your heels, what the Knicks do not want is to find a way where the Hawks catch them and they're in the 8th spot and they got to travel to Atlanta to play the Hawks. And that's been a house of horrors for this Knicks team, particularly big games that they've needed to get when they have to travel to Atlanta. Not that Trae Young hasn't had his performances at Madison Square Garden as well too, but yeah, you want to make sure you can have that game at home. So the Knicks Nets should be a good one. Real quickly before I move on, do you feel like the sting from the Knicks Nets rivalry has kind of been taken away with KD and Kyrie gone now? Like, I don't know how you feel or how other Knicks fans feel, but I certainly don't feel the level of animosity to this version of the Nets as opposed to if this team was playing the KD Kyrie Nets, prior to the trade deadline.
100%. Yeah, it just doesn't have the same juice. Obviously, with the comments Kevin Durant had made about it not being cool and the Knicks aren't the cool thing anymore. And obviously, Kyrie amped up the intensity as well. So yeah, it just doesn't have that same that same level of it's not a hatred certainly by any means. Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson and Cam Thomas and those guys don't exactly generate the same level of vitriol that KD and the gang did. But the other thing that makes it a little bit more interesting is that these teams could potentially, are fighting for playoff spots. And
Yeah, that's true.
you talk about the 7-8. It wouldn't be crazy. There's a ton of games left if the Heat and the Hawks are the teams that finish 5 and 6, and the Knicks and the Nets play that 7-8 game, which would certainly generate a ton of buzz in the city. So certainly something. But there, while it doesn't have that same level of animosity, maybe there could be more at stake than even any Knick game and Knick Nets game in recent years.
Yep, Knicks Nets 7:30, Madison Square Garden should be a good one.